My son promised I could stay as long as I needed after my stroke. 1 week later, my daughter-in-law posted my bedroom on Airbnb and gave me a pillow for the floor. That night, I made a single call to a woman they thought had passed years ago. After my stroke, I lost my sense of safety. You think you're fine 1 minute, and the next you're on the floor, blinking up at fluorescent lights in a grocery store aisle. The doctors said it wasn't major, but they were clear. I couldn't be alone for a while. I needed to take it slow, eat better, no driving, no stress. I didn't want to ask for help. I've always been independent, worked as a nurse for 35 years, raised my son on my own after his father left. There were nights I didn't eat just so he could have a full plate. I didn't complain. That's what parents do. So when he said, "Come stay with us, Mom, as long as you need," I believed him. He sounded like the boy I raised, kind, reliable, loving. He had a good job now, IT management and a house in Beaverton with a guest room. His wife, Serena, worked from home doing marketing. No kids.
No pets.
I thought it would be peaceful. I moved in the following week. Brought just a few things, my clothes, medications, photo albums. I sold the rest, ended my lease. There was no going back. I told myself this was just for a few months until I could get strong again. The first few days I kept quiet. I cleaned up after myself, stayed mostly in the guest room. Serena barely looked at me. When she did, it was fake smiles or tight-lipped nods. She never once asked how I was feeling. By day 4, I noticed tension in the house. Whispered arguments behind closed doors. Serena slammed cabinets harder. My son avoided eye contact. On day 6, Serena stopped making coffee in the mornings and started slamming the bathroom door after using it. I felt like an intruder. On day 7, I came home from a walk around the block to find 2 strangers in the living room. Young couple, early 20s, pulling luggage. I asked if they were friends. Serena appeared behind them with a clipboard. "There are Airbnb guests," she said, like it was normal. "You'll be moving into the office. It's just for a few days." I couldn't speak. I stood there holding my cane, watching strangers get comfortable in the room where my medications and clothes still were. Serena told me, "We need to make up for utilities somehow." She said it like I was a drain.
A bill.
Not her husband's mother. Not a person who had just had a stroke. That night, they handed me a thin pillow and an old twin sheet and pointed to the office. It had no door, just a sliding panel. No window. Carpet smelled musty. I slept on the floor like an unwanted dog. They didn't even check if I took my medication. I lay awake all night, heart racing. I felt like I couldn't breathe. And then I remembered a name, Margot, my ex-husband's sister. She had vanished from family gatherings years ago after falling out, and my son and Serena both assumed she was either dead or crazy. What they didn't know was that Margot had quietly stayed in touch with me over the years. She'd been a recluse, yes, but she wasn't crazy. She just didn't tolerate disrespect. She had 3 homes in Bend, Oregon, and lived mostly off rental income. And unlike my son and his wife, Margot never forgot what I'd been through. A week before my stroke, she had called me. We hadn't talked in months. She said, "If things ever get bad, and I mean really bad, call me. I'll handle it." At midnight, lying on the floor with my hip aching and the sound of Airbnb guests laughing in my old room, I picked up my phone and called her. "Ready?" she asked. I whispered, "Yes." And Margot's plan started to unfold. I didn't know all the details then, but I knew one thing for sure. My son and his wife were about to learn what it feels like to be discarded. The next morning, I woke up stiff and sore. My left arm was tingling again, and I had a dull ache behind my eye. I didn't say anything. They wouldn't have cared anyway. I heard Serena chatting cheerfully with the Airbnb guests while I quietly got dressed in the office. I didn't even have a closet. I kept my clothes in a plastic bin next to the printer. When I hobbled to the kitchen to make toast, she looked at me like I was in the way. "Could you not cook while they're eating?" she asked, motioning toward the couple at the table. I nodded, went back to the office, closed the sliding panel. Margot texted later that morning, "Do not confront them.
Be calm.
Can you stay 2 more nights? I said yes. Barely. I didn't want to blow the plan, whatever it was. That afternoon, a second Airbnb couple arrived. Serena had double booked, or maybe planned it. My son came home and had a brief meltdown when he saw how full the house was. I heard them argue. Quiet at first, then louder. She's your mother. She's messing with the vibe, Serena. You're right. We need our space. Messing with the vibe. That's what I had become. I was invisible. And I realized then, my son wasn't just being pulled by Serena. He agreed with her. He saw me as a burden. Not his mother, who gave up everything for him. Just someone too old and too sick to be useful. Later that evening, Serena knocked on the office panel. Just a heads up. We're hosting a little wine night with the guests. Keep it down if you're going to be walking around. She didn't offer me any food. No glass of wine. Not even a chair. I sat on the carpet in the dark, listening to laughter and clinking glasses. My own son was out there, talking to strangers, pretending this house was happy, while I lay in the corner like a problem shoved out of sight. The next morning, Margot's plan began to reveal itself. A silver Lexus pulled into the driveway around 9 a.m. A sharply dressed woman got out. She was about 50, black hair in a bun, sunglasses. She knocked firmly on the front door. Serena opened it, and from where I sat in the office, I heard the whole thing.
Hi.
I'm with Washington County. We've received reports of unlicensed short-term rentals operating from this address. Is the homeowner available? My heart stopped. My son came to the door, confused. What is this about? She flashed a badge. Operating an Airbnb in this zone requires a permit and safety inspections. Fire alarms, exits, guest limits. All regulated. This property has none of that on file. Serena's voice got shrill. We're not a business. We just host friends. Your listing was found on Airbnb with pricing, availability, and guest reviews, the woman said. I peeked from the office. The woman looked calm, professional, but firm. My son started stammering. The guests began whispering to each other. I'll need to speak to the owner of record, the inspector said. That's when Margot walked in. Hair tied back, jeans and blazer, clipboard in hand. She nodded toward me in the office. That would be me. Everyone froze. Serena blinked.
What?
Margot walked past them, right into the house. I co-signed this mortgage with your husband's mother back in 2004. I'm still on title. You never bothered to check the paperwork, did you? My son looked like he'd been punched in the chest. Margot smiled thinly. Which means you're not running any illegal rentals here. Not anymore. Then she turned to the inspector. I'll be filing a formal complaint and pursuing code violations. Serena started yelling. My son begged. Margot didn't flinch. She looked at me and said, Pack your things. We're going to Bend. We left that afternoon. Margot didn't say much on the drive. She let me sit in the front, turned the radio off, and just focused on the road. I kept waiting for the panic to hit me, that spiraling feeling that comes when everything collapses. But it didn't come. Not this time. I was done begging. Her place in Bend was quiet, tucked into a neighborhood of pine trees and wide streets. She showed me to a guest room with clean sheets, a firm bed, and a window that opened to fresh air. Stay as long as you need, she said. And unlike my son, I believed her. The next morning, she handed me a binder. Inside were copies of the deed to the Beaverton house, emails between her and a real estate lawyer, and records of payments she had made toward the mortgage over the years, something my son never knew about. She had helped me buy that house back when my credit was bad after the divorce. Her name had been quietly sitting on the title ever since. I'm not just co-signer. I'm co-owner, she said. Which means I have legal standing to intervene if there's misuse. She also showed me printouts of Airbnb listings Serena had posted, multiple units, different accounts, even cross-posted on VRBO. They'd been making money off that house for months. Thousands of dollars. That part wasn't surprising. What came next was, they refinanced last year without telling you, she said. Took out equity. You were on the original title, and they filed to have you removed under something called a quitclaim deed. It's legal if signed. Yours was forged. My stomach dropped. I couldn't even speak. Margot didn't need me to. She already had a lawyer in Portland reviewing the documents. If the signature was forged, we had grounds for fraud, elder financial abuse, and even criminal charges. And one more thing. Margot had called in a favor from an old friend at a local paper, a reporter who handled community watchdog stories. She'd shared everything, the illegal Airbnbs, the forged documents, and the fact that I, a stroke survivor, had been pushed out of my own home to sleep on the floor while strangers stayed in my bed. The reporter wanted to interview me. At first, I said no. I was scared. But Margot looked me in the eye and said something I'll never forget. They already wrote their version of who you are. You can let that stand. Or you can tell the truth. So I agreed. The interview ran online a week later with a headline: Beaverton stroke survivor ousted from home by son and daughter-in-law running illegal Airbnb scam. The story exploded. People were angry. Strangers sent messages of support. A local advocacy group for elder justice reached out to offer help. The city opened an investigation into Serena's listings. But the best part? The reporter had found out Serena was claiming tax exemptions on the house under a false, owner-occupied status, which was illegal if more than 30% of the property was used for commercial gain. Especially without permits. They were in serious trouble. And I hadn't even begun the real revenge yet. The fallout came fast. First, the city issued a cease and desist order on all short-term rentals operating from the Beaverton house. Serena took down the Airbnb listings overnight, but it was too late. The screenshots Margot had collected were time-stamped and already sent to the Code Enforcement Office. Fines started piling up $1, $200 per violation per day. Then the letter from the county assessor's office arrived. They'd been tipped off about the false tax exemption. Serena and my son had been claiming primary residence status while running the house like a hotel. The penalty for that was steep: back taxes, interest plus a 25% fraud fee. But that wasn't the worst of it. The lawyer Margot hired confirmed it. The quitclaim deed that removed me from the title was a forgery. The signature didn't match mine. Not even close. A handwriting expert backed it up. My son or Serena, or both, had submitted the forged deed to refinance the house. They pulled out nearly $80,000 in equity. Money I had helped build by paying into that mortgage for years. It made me sick. I had always believed my son would take care of me when I got older. I never imagined he'd take my name off a house I helped buy just so he could make money hosting out-of-towners. I was nothing to him. Just an old woman in the way. Margot didn't hesitate. She filed a civil lawsuit to have the forged deed nullified and my name restored to the property title. The lawyer also filed a motion for damages, financial elder abuse, fraud, emotional distress. Serena and my son were officially served at their doorstep in front of their neighbors. I didn't even tell them I was coming for them. I let the paperwork speak. Then came the twist that broke everything wide open. A woman reached out to the reporter who ran my story. She had seen the article and recognized Serena, said she had worked for her a year ago as a virtual assistant. According to her, Serena had been running fake reviews for the Airbnb listings, and she had emails and receipts proving it. The same email account used to manage those reviews also had correspondence about removing the old woman quietly to make the guest room available year-round. The reporter contacted me again, asked if I wanted to add that to the follow-up piece. I said yes. That second article hit harder than the first. It made Serena look cruel, calculating, and it made my son look weak, a man willing to throw his own mother on the floor just to keep his wife's side hustle alive. They lost friends over that article. They lost reputation. And with the pending lawsuit and tax issues, they were bleeding money. But I wasn't finished yet. There was still one thing I needed to do in person. Face to face. I called ahead and told my son I wanted to meet. Just him. No Serena. He agreed. I think part of him still believed he could fix things, smooth it over, say the right things. That was always his pattern. Mess up, apologize just enough, then expect forgiveness without consequence. We met at a diner near downtown Portland. Middle of the day. Public enough to keep it calm. He looked tired.
Worn.
Like the guilt had finally started to eat at him, but not enough to make him admit it. He ordered coffee. I didn't touch mine. Mom, he started. This has gotten out of hand. Serena's a mess. We've had people harassing us. We're probably going to have to move. I just looked at him. You didn't have to go to the press, he said. That was a lot. A lot. I said quietly. You forged my name to steal a house I helped buy. You pushed me onto the floor so strangers could sleep in my bed. You and your wife treated me like garbage. And you want to talk about what's a lot? He didn't answer, just looked away. I reached into my purse and pulled out a manila envelope. I slid it across the table. What's this? The revised deed. The court sided with me. I'm back on the title. Margot's transferring her share to me. You no longer own the house. His face drained of color. I'm selling it, I said. I already accepted a cash offer. The buyer closes in 30 days. You and Serena have that long to pack and get out. He started to stammer something, an excuse, maybe a plea, but I cut him off. I gave up everything to raise you. I worked double shifts so you could have a future. And this is how you repay me. You don't get a second chance after this. You get consequences. He went quiet, real quiet. Then he said something I'll never forget. I didn't think you'd fight back. That was the truest thing he'd said in years. I stood up, put on my coat, and looked down at him one last time. You thought I'd lie on the floor and take it. You forgot who raised you. Then I left. A month later, the house sold. My name on every document. I used the money to buy a small place in Bend. Not fancy, but mine. Peaceful. Quiet. Safe. I sleep in a real bed now. I take my pills on time. Margot and I have coffee every morning. As for them, I heard Serena left him not long after they moved out. Blamed him for the mess, though she was in it just as deep. Last I checked, he was renting a one-bedroom near Hillsborough, working a lower-level tech job, no more side income, no more hosting. He hasn't called since. And that's fine. I didn't want revenge for the thrill of it. I wanted justice. I wanted him to feel what I felt. That cold, crushing sense of being thrown away by someone who once promised to care for you.
He did that to me.
And I made sure he'll never forget it.